Hello, hello, lovely people. Always happy to be here. From the time that I was looking for a new job, like I didn't do shows. It's not because I didn't wanted to do them, but they were already not scheduled because I was supposed to be at a conference and conferences, and actually I missed it. So now we're back every other week for the devrel show with always amazing guests. Except today. No, that's not true. Today's guest is amazing. Also, really even more happy to be here because I am bringing good news. I started a new job last week, so thank you. After a long and not so fun search about a new role, but I think I found a great fit. I'm now at Go Technology. We have a couple of products like Tiny MC, CK Editor, Upload Care, and Butter CMS. I'm managing a team of developer advocate, but I'm still going to focus on Tiny MC because I feel like I cannot do just management or just leadership stuff. I need to have my hands dirty. But with that said, just happy to be back in a role, exciting role with great challenge. With that said, that show, even there's my name in it, is not about me. It's all about developer relations. It's all about the guests. So let me jump right in. Ramon, Actually, how do you say? Because how do you say your name as the Anglophone? Because like we have the same in French, and it's Raymond, which I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's not how you pronounce it. So how do you pronounce your name? Actually, I never asked you. Sorry about that.
If you want, we can do this all in French. I took French in college, and I'm very, very good. I live in a French area in America. I'm great at French.
Are you serious?
No,
Like we won't do the show in French, but like I did not know that about you. That's
je,
interesting.
je ne parle pas français. No, but I do like Louisiana, like where I am.
Yeah,
I did like the French area, Cajun French, which is a little bit different.
quite different. I mean, like for me, it's French Quebecois, which is also different from like French people, like people living in France. Like we understand each other,
Yeah.
but there's idioms and the accent is different. French Cajun, though, it's another side of the story. Like I'm following a guy on Instagram or TikTok, I think. I don't know. And I understand mostly everything he said, but I need to be really concentrating on the words because
Yeah.
they have like a really strong accent. But I guess like have a strong accent for them. So I mean, like it's like different for everybody. But anyway, going back to my question. How do you say your name in as an Anglophone?
Right.
Oh, just yeah. You just screw up all my things. I was like, how do you say?
Okay.
Oh, just Ray. It's like when people ask me, like, how do you say? Because my full first name is Frédéric, which is
Yeah.
really hard to say if you don't speak French. Like most Anglophone will say like Frédéric, which is close enough. And I personally do not care if you mispronounce my name. I know for some people it's important. For me, it's not. So what I tell people is like, yeah, call me Fred. Like everybody's know how to say Fred, so that's the same kind of things. So Ray, who are you? Tell me who you
Who
are.
who am I? Let's see. Happily married, father of 8, believe it or not.
What?
And 8, yeah, that's a whole other we could do a whole session on that. Yeah, big family. And so that's who I really am. My day-to-day, I am an API evangelist for Foxit, and like yourself, I am recently employed after uh, a break not of my choosing. I've
Yeah.
been here 6 weeks or so.
Okay, so yeah, it's true. I remember the announcement. We're looking for a job around the same time. You started a little bit before me. You
Mhm.
find a new job before me too. And no, yeah, I have so many questions about the little that you said. First, just 8 kids. I'm like, wow. I don't have any kids, and I was talking with a friends a couple of minutes before the show, and I was like, I do not know how people manage their life. I mean, like with everything you have to do, like job, which is like 40 hours or plus, like just like taking care of the house and cleaning and exercising and cooking. And I was like, and I don't even have kids. Like I was having a lot of compassion for people who had kids, but I was thinking about people that have one, two, not people that have eight. So that's a total different story. But
I love how you, like, just imply that I'm actually doing it well, like, I never said that I was managing it well.
that's a good point. But from what I know from you, I'm pretty sure you're doing a pretty good job on that front, like you're doing on any other front in your life.
Well,
From what I know.
so you asked, like, how. So my first wife and I was married for a long time. My first wife passed away. We adopted 7 kids. And when I got married again, my wife shares 1 kid with her ex, so together we have 8, and that's totally fair. Like, I brought 7,
Yeah.
she brought 1. That's totally fair. But one of the things that she asked me, like, when we were, courting, that's just shows you how old I am to use that word. She asked how I did this, and I was like, routine and triage. So, incredibly strong routine, very, very set. That way you always know when things are happening, and you say no a lot, which
Hmm.
is fine.
Makes sense. And one other thing I really loved, it's episode number 35, 36, maybe. I can't remember. I can't keep track of those, and I have really bad memories for those kind of things. But uh, you're the first person who answered with non-related work first. Like every time you ask someone, and I know this show is not about philosophy and life and stuff, it's mostly about devrel, but I loved it so much because I have a lot of discussion with a lot of people. I had a discussion with a friend not long ago about that, the fact that what we like when you ask someone like, so what do you do in life, the answer should be like, oh, I like to go hiking and I like to do bicycling and I like traveling. And but the first answer is always like, oh, I'm a software developer, or I work at the grocery store, or I'm a barista. Like it's always job first.
Mm.
When it's like no disrespect if someone from my new job is watching right now, but I mean, like I do this because I need money to be being able to live in a world where we need money, and I like what I do. I'm passionate about what I do, but it's work. And I loved it so much that you started and you were like, you know what, personal life, this is who I am, and also do that for work day to day. Just wanted to say that
Thank you.
that was great, and I think we should do more of that. And maybe it's coming from personal issues, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that. But like being part of being a developer advocate, it's a lot about who you are as a person. It's a lot about your personality. Like I feel like a lot of like what is considered soft skills for their role are basically hard skills for us. And being out there, having your face out there, making videos, public speaking, like being an author of articles, like it's always you. I like to call myself the friendly, social, technical, approachable face of the company. And when I started doing that job first, my ego was like
Mm.
crazy big because I was on the stage, because I was the expert, because people like were talking to me and I was representing the company. But for a long time, I was identifying myself toward that job as a developer advocate. And it took me some time to kind of like try to disconnect both and not having my word related totally to like my job as a developer advocate. But I didn't have that issue when I was a software developer. It
Mm.
kind of like came with the developer advocate role. So it's why I thought that it was fascinating that like, yeah, you started with like you as a human, and after that, like you as a professional.
I had to be honest, like, this is my second podcast today. I think the first one, I just said I API evangelist. So, I had
That
to
would
make
have
a
been a great
conscious.
answer. It's just like it ticked something in me, and I was like, "No, that's magnificent." I just, I just love it. So, 2 podcasts today. Not too tired for to do this one. You're good.
No, no, not at all, not at all. Well, part of this job, right, is whether you're tired or not, like, you bring it, and you bring it, and the second you're done, you're like, "Oh, crap. I didn't go up to the hotel and, like,
I know.
not look at anybody for a
I
while."
know. I know. I had so many people after talks were like, "Oh my god, you have so much energy," and I'm like, "No, I was dying on stage." It's just like you didn't see it, but like I was so tired for X reasons. Yeah. So, Ray, tell me, how's the new job now? You've been there for 6 weeks. What does it mean to be an API evangelist at
Mhm.
Foxit?
Yeah, so, before I joined, like, they were ramping up to launch all these new APIs, and these APIs launched June 30th, so, like, 10 days ago, and I did have to go look down at the calendar because I have no idea what today is. So I joined about a month or so before this was launching, so kind of late. But I jumped in, looked at the docs, looked at the onboarding, looked at the APIs. I had kind of played with the APIs during my interview, like during my
Mhm.
technical assessment. I will say they did it well. It wasn't like a live coding thing. It was,
Oh, good.
hey, here's something, build something, and get back to us. So there was like no pressure in like doing it in front of people. So I had time to actually build something, show it, present it, and I didn't feel like any gotcha type questions at all, which I really, really appreciate. I've done a few interviews with stuff like that, and it's just not fun. But yeah, so it's been the last month has mainly been, oh my god, this is launching. Let's try to make sure it's as good as possible. And like sometimes, like going back to the routine and triage, the triage part, sometimes you identify things like, all right, this is not the best, but we're gonna go with it, and it's gonna be something that we fix later on and make better. Um, but yeah, it went off just fine, and we are beginning to ramp up like more marketing and stuff like that to try to get the word out. And doing shows like this. I'm going to API World in September. Just try to get people knowledgeable about what this offering does.
Oh, that's great. I think I've been at API World once before. If I'm not wrong, they're doing a lot of like API centric conferences. Like it's a French based company. I think organizing that it was a great conference. So you will
Mm.
really probably have fun if it's the first time you're going. And yeah, we have Anuj with us today. Hey everyone, glad to be here. Glad for you to be here. Happy for you to be here. Thanks for joining the show with us today. And Ray, question about your title. And I usually do not care about titles, but I still think they're important because mostly everybody care about titles.
Yeah.
And when I started that job, developer relation 14 years ago now, everybody were called evangelists in one form or another. Like it was, I think my first title was technical evangelist, and at some point it moved to developer evangelist, and at some point we decided, or not me particularly because I really love the title evangelist, but we moved toward like developer advocate or something around advocate. So but I've seen company right now that use advocate as more like a uh, the developer relation role, where it's kind of like a two-way street, and evangelist more to evangelize. Um, like, are you developer like a developer advocate, and it's just a title like that, or is your job more like mostly outreach? What you're doing right now? The title does it's just a title.
It's just a title, and so my role encompasses everything. So the external part, which tend to think more of the evangelism, and the internal part, the developer advocacy type part. And so, for most of my time at Foxit so far, it's not been released, so it's been definitely internal. Like, hey, we should tweak this, we should do that, etc. Now that we are released, it's going to be also the external part as well. I like doing both. I feel like I'm always thinking about both. Like, oh, here's an opportunity to tell new people about this, and oh, here's like literally before we started, I found a, little bug in our sign up process. I'm like, okay, I that it's tiny, but it bugs me, and I want to make sure we know about it and record it, so we can make it better.
Okay, I like that. I was just curious because I love that title. That was my title, but at some point I moved to a role where like, oh yeah, we won't use that because reason. But I loved it because people were like, "So, are you going to church every like
Yeah.
Sundays?" And that was like a perfect icebreaker. I loved it because of that. People know a little more what is like a developer advocate. But evangelist, at least at that time, during my time many years ago, people were like, "Yeah, is it a religious thing?" And I was like, "Let me talk to you about my role and what I'm doing." And it was like a perfect icebreaker. But yeah, I was just curious about that.
Will say, like, I do prefer developer advocate, because
Okay.
it doesn't have the religious overtone, and I feel like, that title is more the norm. I feel like evangelist is kind of falling out of favor a bit. I see DA more than I see evangelist, so I prefer it, but, didn't bug me enough to say, "Well, I'm not gonna join y'all unless you change the title," you know?
No, no, makes sense. And like I basically like I was not happy with the decision to move to developer advocate many years ago because I loved Evangelist. I understood why though. It's just because like I'm not a religious person. I'm more like a spiritual person. Like I'm Buddhist, but like for me, it's a philosophy, not a religion. But I respect all religion. My mother was going to church. Actually, she was really going to church every Sunday, and it's real hard to offend me. So even if I would have been religious, like someone calling themselves an evangelist wouldn't have been offended to me. But I think it was part of like the reason why they slowly move like the industry has as a whole slowly moved to developer advocate. But I think as long as you're doing like the two-way street job with like your job is not just to create awareness and talk about things, but also to bring the feedback to the product team. I don't think the title is important.
Mm.
Seeing the guy who's talking about title for the last 10 minutes, but yeah, and Ray, you've been doing that for a long time. Also, like there's not a lot of people doing that job for multiple years. Uh, do you want to share a little bit about your past experience in
Yeah,
different roles?
so I started coding in middle school or high school, probably late 80s, maybe early 80s or so. Went to college in 91 for computer science. Quickly discovered that being good at math means nothing. It's like, being good at baseball in your high school team and then like being in MLB, that's like
It's not the
nothing.
same.
Yeah. So I dropped out of computer science actually and switched to English, which was
Okay.
smart because I know now we use so much math. Well, I think in the last 20 years, the most advanced math I've used is average. Like that's it. So, but anyway, I switched to English, and that was also right when the web was coming out, and I was very excited about it because it was very approachable, very easy, and there were no rules back then. It was just kind of wild west, and so I that was my career. I was doing this basic web dev type stuff in the like 95 or so. I can say I did some contract work for Netscape back in the day, which was like a huge deal.
It
Netscape
was
was like they were everything. Um, and I was actually in their corporate office. It was huge. Um, did that
nice.
for a little while. And very early on, I started a blog and I started doing presentations just because I found it fun. I really recognized early on that it scratched a part of my brain that needed scratching. Um, I wasn't the smartest person in the world, so pretty much every single thing that I struggled with, once I understood it, I put that on my blog. So that kind of really drove the traffic in because I was sharing stuff because apparently when you struggle with something, you're not the only person struggling with it, believe it or not.
That's
uh,
true. And if I can add something, like I often do coffee chats with people that want to become developer advocate or technical writers or that need to produce contents and stuff like, or even just developer that would like to produce content because they want to show their expertise to potential employers without having done the job. And most of the people, their comments are like, yeah, but it's already exists. Like there's already someone who wrote about that on the web, which is true. Like there's very little chance that like you're going to write something that is absolutely new. Maybe many years ago, when we both started blogging, maybe we had like more original content. But I would say right now, someone probably already wrote about that. But fine, write it again, write it with your own vision, with your own expertise, with your own sauce or like way of describing what you're talking to people. The web is not like if we would restrict the web to one piece of content, TikTok would not exist because it's just a repetition of like videos that like trends that everybody's done before, but like they did it differently. It's a new personality. So just long story short, if there's people watching right now that want to create content, but they're like, yeah, I don't have any original piece. So what? Just write it and start there, and it should be good to go. So sorry, I cut you, but
no, it's
it's kind
I,
of pet peeve of mine when I talk about
yeah.
those things.
So I did it like unofficially for a long time. I was going to conferences. Early on, my main area was ColdFusion. which was a small niche community, but incredibly passionate and a great community, especially since it attracted a lot of non-developers. ColdFusion, like versus PHP, you could do the same thing, but ColdFusion was a lot more friendlier to non-traditional technical people or non-traditional people, just period. And so that community was just filled with really, it still is filled with really nice, just all walks of life type people. Uh,
Is it? It's still
yeah,
like going strong because
yeah,
when you said Cold Fusion, I was going to say like Gray, you're just betraying your age now because like
yeah.
it's been a while that I heard about Cold Fusion, but I didn't know it was still going strong.
Oh yeah, listen, I don't need any help showing my age. Like that, I'm not hiding that in any way whatsoever. And that could be a whole other topic of conversation about job hiring too. But I don't want to even like go down that route. But so
Yeah,
yeah,
please don't.
that's primarily was where I was. 2013, I got my first real DevRel job, and so since 2013, I've multiple companies, multiple types of DevRel, but officially been in the role for only 12 years or so.
That which is yeah, I think you're coming with circus there, but like you've
Yeah,
been doing that for
it feels like it's like brand new. Like I still like at this job right now, I'm absolutely hitting parts of my brain and learning skills that I didn't have before.
mm,
So I kind of just imagine like hopefully I'm at this company forever, but I imagine I will keep hitting things that I haven't learned and picking up new skills.
yeah, that's true. But you know, that job is like 10,000 jobs in one, and I'm pretty sure it's not even like exaggerating. It's not even like it's just it's so many things. It requires so many skills to being able to do that job. And I'm not saying that in a way that like, oh, we're so good, we're doing that job. But yeah, I've been doing that for a long time too, and I'm still learning every day, and I'm still
Mm,
trying to get better at some of the things that I've been doing for years, either. Which is one of the things I like too with that job is that you're always like in a learning state in terms of like skills, but also I don't know for you, but for me, my career as a developer advocate, I went in all direction when it comes to technologies. I was like, hey, can I get excited
mm,
about that technology, or do I know if I'm going to be excited? Like right now, it's rich text editor. The previous job was cloud native. The one before it was just like cloud overall. The one before was like health Fitbit device, and the other one was browser. The other one was npm like Node.js, and it was really like, yeah, you have a job. I know I'm already excited about the technology and or the product, or I know where I can be. Let's do it. I'm gonna learn stuff, and I think it's part of the job.
mm.
Yeah, but doing this for a while, right? I talk to like I do a lot of coffee chat. I think I said it, but with people that wants to become developer advocate, and it feels like you had the same trajectory as me or the same journey where you started to do things on your own without being paid just because you were like, hey, this is something that I like to do,
Mhm.
and this is how I got my first job too. You know, I was writing blog posts, I was starting to speak at conference, I was running a meetup, and at that time it was Microsoft. Sorry to if there is any Microsoft folks listening to us right now. Like those layoff were terrible, but anyway, they approached me. They were looking for someone, and it's just because I was already doing part of the job
Mm.
that they were looking to pay someone to do it. That they approached me. So my advice is always like start, which is bad a little bit because you don't say that to a plumber, but like start to do the job that you want to have. So start to write blog posts, starts to speak at conference. So my questions are super long because I give my opinion at the same time. But do you have any advices for folks that would like to start in developer relation? What would be your advice?
At the simplest level, just thinking about other people, right? So, I look at our APIs and like, let's say I work to get, I think I code, I write a script, it's finally working. I think traditionally a developer is like, all right, I'm not touching that. Source control done. It's working. It was a struggle. Uh, but my mindset is, okay, why was it a struggle? Okay, so this part wasn't documented well. This part was partially my fault, but a lot of other people may run into it as well. And so I think about all those points, and I'm like, all right, what can I do to bring that back to internally, like make our products better? If I'm doing something not related to my job at all, what can I do to help other people? And that's typically like go to my blog, like, hey, here's a demo of this. This is what I struggled with, and this was my workaround. So I'm always kind of looking for things I could make life easier for other people. I always like for a while, like I struggled with the fact that like I will never be a rock star dev, right? I won't pass the Google tech screen. I failed that twice. Um, I'll never be like the super smart person at the top of the ladder. Long time ago, I realized, right, if I'm like midway up that ladder and I could help people beneath me go up, I'm still helping people climb. And that makes me really, really, really happy knowing that I've helped other people do stuff.
I love that. And I think I'm in the same situation as you. Like, I've never been like a rock star developer. I'm technical. I know my way around. I've always been an average developer. Uh, where I shine most is like the other part of the job where, like, yeah, I need to be technical, but like, oh my God, like I talk to people. I know how to communicate. I have a presence when I'm on stage, when I'm on videos. Like, I have a lot of compassion toward developers, because as you said, like, hey, I try something, it didn't work, how can I make it better so the next person is going to be easier for them? Like, you need to understand. And some people disagree, but I've been in tech for 23 years and I still say being a developer is hard, because there's like so many ways of doing things, so many technologies. You have to deal with customers. Some people don't know what they want, bugs, different browsers. If you do web application, like there's so many things to go around. And maybe that's going to change. It's changing right now. We know with AI and vibe coding. I don't know if it's going to be better, worse. That's an entirely different discussion, but I
Yeah.
still believe that like it's not an easy job. So having compassion for developers within that job, helping people being successful, I think it's part of it. And the thing that people need to understand too, and I've been fighting for that for years to help people understand developer relation, is that it's about the human connection, which means that it's usually you can have quick win, but it's usually a medium to long term type of impact because you're building
Mhm.
relationship, you're connecting with the human. So,
Yeah.
but great answer. I love that. We have a question for Anuj. What separates? Oh, good question. What separates a good API from a great one? You're asking. Good timing. We have the expert with us.
Yeah, there's like multiple things. So obviously, good documentation. Uh, A lot of times, the less I have to read the docs, like the more obvious your APIs are, the better. Like one of the things I think our APIs do really well is that they're very consistent across the board. So like once you've done one thing with our API, doing another thing, it's like, oh, I can copy and paste all
Mm.
this code and just like tweak one or two things there. That's the kind of thing you want. And a lot of that comes from just being consistent, which seems obvious, but I've
It's not.
absolutely yeah, it's not,
It is. It is. But like as an API user myself, it's so not.
and, a lot of that is that you have teams of engineers working on something, and there's nobody, like, on top thinking like us. That's our job is to be the outside person saying, "All right, yeah, internally, you have a bunch of people, and they're on different parts of the planet, and that's why things are inconsistent. I don't care. Like, I'm potentially gonna give you money. I don't care what your reasons are. Your dog's
Yeah.
sick, whatever. I'll take my money elsewhere. Like, I don't care about your excuses. This is what's wrong. We have to fix it. So yeah, consistent APIs, easy to use, good documentation, which is not always more documentation. It's very like on LinkedIn today, I was talking about how I asked for some docs to be taken out because they weren't helpful. They were
Mm.
true, but not necessarily helpful to actually using our product. So stuff like that. Good error messages. I never want to see a status code 500. I want to see you sent me a number that's too high. It needs to be between 1 and 100. Stuff like that. Um, Yeah,
Yeah, there is
consistent, good
nothing more
documentation, good errors.
frustrating than like you have
Yeah,
just a generic error, and I'm like, okay, what did I do? How can I
yeah,
fix it? And you just don't know, or you have to find like the page in the doc that may give you some reasons, but you still don't know which one. So I
yeah.
like that. I like that. I really love that you start with good documentation too. I know you may not have set them in order, but like the first thing
Mhm.
that pop into your mind is like great documentation. I gave a couple of talks where I think my title is like developer documentation, your secret weapon or something like that. And I firmly believe that because I always tell people you can have the best product out there if your documentation sucks. Like people won't know how to use it, they won't be able to debug stuff, they won't be able to understand like how to benefit from the features or whatever you're offering people. So documentation is quite important. And it
Mhm.
usually goes like under the developer relations ownership, depending on the company. Sometimes it's going to be product, sometimes you're going to have like a content department or technical writers that's going to manage that, but quite often it goes under devrel. If not, depending if you're a small startup or a big company too, but if not, at least devrel should have a word because it's developer experience at the end. Yeah.
I'm also like really good at breaking things. So like if I look at your docs and you don't, I'm like, if there's a number value and you don't tell me what the range is, my first thought is, all right, what happens if I go I pass, infinity or something or -1 or whatever? Like how are you going to respond to that request?
Yeah, I agree, and it's also part of why I had too many jobs for my own good. My only wish since I started being a developer advocate is to basically have a little bit the same as like when I was a software developer, is like stay in a place for years and years, but life, market, developer relation in itself didn't give me that because of the nature of the role. I was unlucky at different level. I hope that where I am right now, I'm going to be able to stay for a couple of years. But with that said, when I start a new job, usually the first thing I do is that I don't want anyone to basically tell me about the product or like do me a demo. What I want to do is like be kind of like the customer zero, and I try to ask has like the minimum number of questions possible because I want to use the docs, I want to use the videos you
Mhm.
have on YouTube. I was going to say on LinkedIn, on YouTube. I want to use like what any other users would have because they don't have the same contact I have, and that really helps me to evaluate like what's the experience for new users or new developer using my product or my service. And this is where I can see like, oh, there is part of the docs that is not clear. Oh, it seems like it's missing something, and it's easy for someone who write the docs for like a year or two, or the developer who build the product
Mhm.
because they know how it's working, but like has a new users like it may not be the case. So this is how I usually try to evaluate like the developer experience. So yeah, and just about your answer, I know you were saying totally agree. I've seen some APIs that are technically powerful but hard to use. Yes, true that. True that.
Yeah, for 30 years now, I feel like every like computer language I've used can all do the same stuff. Like, if I had to build something in a Perl CGI script now, it's got file IO, you could do database. Yeah, it could do everything we do now. It would just be hard as hell to do it. I would not want to use that particular tool. So, given that you have multiple options that all allow you to do something, you're gonna pick the one that's easy. Like, one thing like with our APIs are all about like document management. So I rarely think people will just use our API. They will use our API in a workflow with
Mhm.
like multiple
Yeah.
other things. I want our API to be the part you don't worry about. Like, oh, that's done. Now I'm stressed about this, and it's not Foxit. It's Microsoft or something else.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and that makes sense. And especially uh, developers usually like there may be there's a big chance that like there's another tool or competitor that does the same thing as like your employer or the product you want to use. So if people wants to use your product but they're not successful right away, or it's really difficult to understand how to use it, they're going to go see elsewhere like how it goes, and like maybe that's going to be easier. And usually we're pretty hard on that, like we give one chance and like you're done after if I had a bad experience. Like there's tools that I still don't use right now because I had a bad experience 10 years ago, and it probably fixed things. It's probably better now, but I'm just I'm not even someone who hold grudges against people. It's just like when it comes to a product or a tool, I'm like, yeah, no, you had your chance. Now I'm using something else and I'm used to it, and you're done. So be
Mm.
careful with those. Like, always be sure to have great experience. But Ray, we could talk forever. We're two developer advocates. I think it's time for the demo. You know, you mentioned Foxit a couple of times.
Yeah.
I want to learn a little more about what is the product in itself, your API, because you're an API and Evangelist, and learn a little more about how people could use this.
Absolutely. So this is our main homepage for developers, developer-api.foxit.com. And you can peruse this at your leisure, but essentially there's got like four buckets of APIs that we work with. The ones that we just launched are the PDF services and document generation. Uh, PDF services is kind of like a basic tool chest, right? So this is where if you need to do Office to PDF, PDF to Office, you need to split PDFs, convert them to images, whatever. That bucket contains like all of our utility type APIs. Document generation is it's very fascinating because it takes this idea of you need to create dynamic PDFs or dynamic documents in general for like invoices, for agreements, etc. You know, something like at the end of the month, you need to send bills to people. That's typically one template and a lot of data. So document generation, the API allows you to pass a Word document that's a template and then your particular data. So, like for an invoice, it'd be what you owe, address, and all that stuff. As an API, code wise, it's incredibly simple because it's literally just send me the Word document, send me your data. Where the complexity comes in is that you actually use Microsoft Word with a template language, which is kind of crazy to imagine that Word can be a template, but it's really just like tokens. So like bracket name, close bracket,
Hmm.
and when you call our API, we'll change those brackets to whatever data you send and give you, you can make either a dynamic PDF or a dynamic Word document. But that one I like because it's like less code and more Microsoft Word, which just amuses the heck out of me. PDF embed. This is still kind of being baked, so you can't really sign up for it yet. But the basic idea there is that if you want to put a PDF in a web browser, this gives you more control. So browsers have done a fine job at PDFs for a long time, but typically what happens when you link to a PDF, it takes over the entire page. So if you want to embed it or put it inside of a page and still have your UI and navigation and stuff like that, that's where tools like Embed can help with that because it gives you that particular control. And we also give you like JavaScript hooks into events and stuff like that. So if you want to, tweak the experience and excuse me, have some insight into how people are using it, you can do that. But again, this is again still kind of being baked a little bit. It should be easier to sign up pretty soon. The last thing is not new. This has been around for a while, but we have a full electronic signature platform. It's definitely more than an API. There's a whole consumer side where you can go in and say, "Hey, I have this document. I need my buddy Raymond to sign it. So I'm going to use a web page. I'm going to create this template. I'm going to use the web portal to send it to Ray, and I can see if he's got it. I can see if he's signed. I can see that workflow of the signature process. So we have that consumer web-based process. There's also a complete API portion to that as well. So like going back to DocGen, when I was talking about, creating invoices, or you can also imagine creating job offer letters in bulk, and you need people to
Mhm.
sign on that. So you can use DocGen to create that dynamic PDF, then use the eSign APIs, kind of automate the process of sending that out, asking them to sign that. Also, do things like ping them to actually sign it if they waited too long. So that's kind of like the four buckets. Our APIs. Let me get to the right tab, and I'll just kind of go into here. I'll pick. How about
And
PDF.
just while you search for that, you bring some memory when about 22 years ago, I was a junior developer, and my boss at the time asked me to try to do things with PDF and modify PDF. And I had to. I was not successful. I was too new. I didn't have the knowledge, and at that time, we didn't have like proper libraries, so I had to like print the print. Yeah,
Mhm.
that betray my age a little bit too. But I had to print the manual, like the PDF specification, which was like that thick, and I understood fuck all. I was like, so it's. I'm so happy when we started to have like PDF lib and stuff like that, where like you can do more manipulation, and having Foxit right now makes developers' life easier. So yeah, just a small slice of memory.
Yeah, so this is my second role working with PDFs, and honestly, before it was just a document, like, that's it, like,
Yeah,
whatever. Had no idea, like, how complex the specification was, how complex you could, build PDFs. There's a JavaScript engine inside them, not like Chromium, it's like it's old and rusty, but you have, like, a basic JavaScript engine in the PDF itself. You could do attachments. There's even like things related to there's all these aspects of PDFs I just did not have any knowledge of, and that was part of the joy of this job is like learning like this how cool this thing that I thought was so simple is actually really complex and diverse and just cool. So
I like
um
that.
so yeah, these are our REST API docs. Obviously I'm not going to read these out loud, but what I will say is that most of our PDF services follow a simple, consistent flow. So that's again, I like consistency where you have an API endpoint to upload a document. So let's say a Word file. You have an API to kick off a process. So I want to do a Word document to PDF. You have an API to check to see how that job is doing because it will be asynchronous. It does take a couple of seconds, especially if you send like a huge document for input. And then when that job is done, you have an API to download. So pretty much everything is 4 steps: upload, kick off job, check the job, and download it. But all these APIs, like the only thing that you have to tweak is that particular job, right? So if I'm building a workflow, let's say for Dropbox or Google Docs, where there's this influx of stuff coming in, Word documents, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever, and I want to standardize on PDF. Like PDFs can be the main thing we use. So I could use our APIs to do Word to PDF, PowerPoint to PDF, Excel to PDF.
Mm,
And like once I've written the code, copy and paste 5 seconds. It literally
love
just
that.
change the endpoint. I will show you some code now.
I
And
love
this
code.
is Python. I am a recent-ish Python fan over the last 4 or 5 years, which still feels recent to me. Uh, it makes me happy. Like I've always been a web person. I will always do JavaScript till I die. Probably that's a scary thought. But like Python is just nice. Make you smile.
I agree with that. I did a little bit of Python a couple of jobs ago
Mhm.
because it was like around like data processing, LLMs, and stuff like that. And everything is in everything is in Python, and I hated a little bit at the beginning, and it grown on me a little bit. Like I'm nowhere near a Python expert, but I have a little bit of experience, and
Mhm.
it actually quickly became one of my favorite. I'm probably still gonna do like JavaScript and Node stuff until also the day I die. But Python, like if my next job would have been like Python focused, I would have been happy too. Mm.
Yeah. Cool. So this is a simple example, and it's literally like what I just said. So I'll skip over the functions, but I begin by uploading a document. This is a Word document. I get back from our API document ID. I kick off a job to convert that to PDF. This typically takes like 2 or 3 seconds. But I have a little utility function that will just ping it, I think, every 5 seconds. So it pings it once or twice at most. When it's done, it gives me a new document ID, and I literally just stream it down. Now I can actually do like multiple operations. So if I wanted to like put a password on it before I download it, if I wanted to split that document so that I had like a preview version, like I'm selling PDFs, selling
Mm.
documents, and I want to on the web have like a 5-page preview of that. I could do that operation as well. But like even if you don't know Python very well, like this is like 6 lines of code
Yeah.
basically setting my credentials and setting the binary bits, the convert to PDF, sending my credentials again. This is the endpoint. Pretty much when we were about to launch these APIs, I built a Python script for all the APIs just so I had one available myself. Um, and to make sure everything worked properly.
Yeah.
But like this is the only block that I had to change. Like I changed the name, I changed this, and some of the APIs take different input, based on what you're doing. But
Yeah.
this returns essentially a task, and I can then just ping that, and I just in a while loop every 5 seconds. I'm just seeing if it's done. And the last function just streams that binary data to the file system. And you don't have to do that, obviously. We have, for example, an extract API that can get the
Yeah.
text out of a PDF. And I could stream that text right to RAM and, do something else with it, like call a Gen AI system to summarize the text, for example. I will run this. It's a super exciting terminal demo. You're going to think, Ray, why aren't you in design? Uh, Developer demos. I said I wasn't going to type, but I'm typing a little bit. And Word to PDF, and that's it. Uploaded, created. See the final task
It
and
was fast.
done. And I'm assuming I don't have to show you the PDF. It did work.
No, it's good. We're gonna trust you.
It's right here, though. So I will click. Mostly because there's a good extension in Visual Studio Code to load PDF documents, so I don't have to go outside to share it.
No, I think it was worded to show it because I can see a cat here.
Yeah.
So just for the sake of there we go. Now that's a real demo. Now that's
There
a
you go.
proper demo. We see the cat. I love it. One of the things I like the most when someone introduced me to a new product because I didn't know Foxit before is as much as I can do complicated things, I'm done with that. Like I don't like to do complicated things anymore. So give me a product that the complexity from me that is simple to use, which is what you've seen. Which doesn't mean that the product is simple, but like the users is simple. It does something complex which I do not know how to do, convert those documents, which is one of the things it does, but it does it well and it's simple for me to use it. And for me, those are winners. Like do that thing, do it well. So good job to I was going to say to you, but actually to the product team.
Yes. I work with very small, very smart people. I'm the one there being annoying, like, oh, this API should do this a little bit different. Can you do that to make me happy? And if you don't, I'm gonna remind you like every other day to do it.
For the rest of your life, you're gonna hear about me. But it's. I think it's a joke aside. I think it's part of the role too, because again, as much as like I have most of my career, not all the way, but most of my career, I work with brilliant people like on a product team, and they were amazing, and they created things that like I would not have been able to create. But again, once you're always inside the same product, working on the same product, you have
Mhm.
your habits, you know how everything's working, you have ways to do that. So usually people hate me as a QA person because I come here and I will not do, for whatever reasons, I will probably won't use your product as you intended it for people
Yeah,
to use it. So I will break things. I will need features that you didn't thought about, but I think it's part of the role too to be that kind of person who
yeah,
bring that to the product team, and after that they can decide if it makes sense, if it doesn't make sense, if it's a priority or not. But I think it's part of the job, not just our own feedback, that, as we were talking before, like other users and people we talk to feedback, but ourselves, like we become users of those and customers of those product, and I think it's important. But yeah, I'm annoying too. So if people at my new job are watching that live stream right now, the recording, you are now warned. It's week 2, so I'm not being too annoying yet, but soon enough I'm gonna start to yeah,
Let
that's
me
that's
uh
that's the
let
reality.
me share something that I think like that you will get. Like this is part of our job. When I was doing my tech interview, and I was using the API to check the task, they didn't have the status, right? They had progress. So I saw that and I was a little surprised. I'm like, all right, I guess my logic for is it done is progress equals 100.
Mhm.
And one of the feedback I gave early on was like, yes, I can do that, but almost always there's like one thing you could check that has a very simple, clear label, like status. And we should add that so it's a little bit clearer and more direct to see how things done. And so adding that did it didn't really make the product work any differently.
Yeah.
It just made the code a little bit more direct and simple, I think.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I've seen APIs or product that were telling me like, "Hey, progress 100," but I was like, I didn't have the result yet. So something between the time you decided it was done and you delivered the result to me, something happened. So it was not completed. It was like mostly everything you had to do was done, but like you had an issue at the end. So being sure that like, yeah, once everything is really done, like now you're like the last thing you do is like changing the status.
Hmm.
And like I think it makes sense too, but maybe it's me being a little bit too intense. But and I've had such wonderful experience with so many software, and I'm being sarcastic now. But yeah, those little things, those little details, I think they make the difference between like a good product and a great, or what the our friend Anuj was saying. Like I think it make the difference between like a good API and a great API.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Love
again,
it.
like I want my tool to be the one that's like not a problem, like everything else be a problem. And like I do the same thing at home. Like if I know if my wife's having a hard day, I'm not going to add to that. Like I want to be the part she doesn't worry about where everything else is on fire, you know?
I love it. Awesome. So I have the feeling that that's the end of your demo.
Yeah.
That was a good feeling. Awesome. So I think it brings us to the end of the this episode of the show. Any last words you want to share with people? Anything either about Foxit, about developer relation, about you? Actually, do you have 10 kids instead of 8, maybe? And you like to have something? I don't know. Is there anything else you want to share?
I will drop a couple of things. How about that? But I'll make them
Okay.
short and sweet.
I like it. No,
Uh,
please
so
take your time.
Um, so like personal wise, and I shared this in the podcast I was in a couple hours ago. Uh, my best advice to everyone in general is that if you are struggling with anything, consider going to a therapist. When I was going through some very rough times, went to therapy and it was incredibly helpful. And not even so much that, oh, you'll describe a problem. They'll say, oh, here's the fix. It's less about fixing for me. It's more about just being able to talk. And as soon as I got those problems out, half the time I got was done. Like just saying it to a third party was helpful. Uh, that's like the serious life advice I give. The not so serious life advice I give that's still really important. Long time ago, my wife wanted to spend an inordinate amount of money on a bed. And I remember thinking, like, why would you spend so much money on a bed when you're gonna lay down, fall asleep, wake up, and like you don't experience all of that?
I
I
see
was
where it's
convinced I
going.
was right. I was like, all right, go and do it. And she got it. And to this day, I remember sitting on that bed thinking, oh, this is why you spend that kind of money on a good bed. I could feel that immediately. So that's my life advice. Not even just like DevRel per se, just in your job, I think, if you're in tech, looking for ways that you could help others, thinking about the end user, thinking about, every time you struggle with something, it's an opportunity that you can talk to your documentation people. Or if it's engineers writing it, that's you, explain it, just add that little bit of extra information to do that. You don't have to be in our career to still help people out and,
Yep.
and make things better for people. And for Foxit in particular, I know you shared the URL earlier. If you want to reach out to me, I am Jedi Master at foxitsoftware.com. I cannot believe I was able to get that email alias, but it's mine forever now. So if you have any questions about working with our APIs, absolutely feel free to reach out to me. I don't have a link handy. Foxit Software.
Oh,
Got
Fox.
the software.
Oh, good, 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 good.
Sorry, I made that mistake more than once. I don't have a URL handy, but we are doing a live stream soon where I'll have like a full hour to like show APIs and all that stuff. So please join us. And that is
There's
it.
there's so many things I want to add. First, good job on the email. I
Thank you.
tried just to have like Fred at a domain name, and IT didn't let me have it. So now I have like Frederick.Harper at as email, which is the longest email I ever had. Uh, Therapists cannot agree more. I've seen therapists in the past, and they were like super helpful. There's nothing shameful to go see a therapist. Usually, what is great is that as much as your friends or family can be nice, they come with a view with no past, no previous experience, a different approach, and it's basically their job to try to help guide you. Like they will. Most of the time, they don't bring you solution, but it helps to guide you in the right direction so you can find your solution. But sometimes they can bring you solution. So, really, really great advice. And seriously, the bed, I would say, have great tools. I invested in maybe it's cliche, but like in the Herman Miller chair. I'm too fat. You can even not see my chair, but like it cost, I don't know, I think it was 2K or 2.5K, which is like when I decided to do that, I think I was not well in my own mind because I was like, I will never pay that for a chair. But I have back issues, and I bought this 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Now it's a little bit going away. It's just because of my cat. My cat is just like going over the chair. But outside of that, the chair is still as comfortable as day one. I
Nice.
stopped. I still have back problem that didn't solve my back problem. It's not that magical, but at least when I sit in front of my computer, it doesn't hurt. So that was an investment that now it's a chair that cost me, it's more than 8 years. I think now it like the average of my chair is $100 per year. So it cost me like $10 per month. Uh, but it was so worth it. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep that chair for a while. So long story short, in relation to the non-serious advice, which I think at the end, maybe I'm too serious of a person today, but I think was a great advice. Like just try to invest in great tools. We spent like you have to have a great night of sleep. We spend so much time in front of the computer trying to invest to great things that help you. I think there's research about the fact that like our job as people working in front of the computer is more dangerous than like people working with like big machinery and stuff like that, just because we're like sedentary and staying in our place and like not a perfect position. So anyway, long story short, actually, those were great advice. That was a great way to end the show. So now I'm going to shut up. I'm going to read a comment from Anuj. Thanks again for being here, being active too. Appreciate your time and a great session. That was my pleasure. Actually, I did nothing. It's Ray did all the jobs. This is what I like about that show. The guests are doing all the jobs. I'm just the pretty face. So, but yeah, no, thanks, Ray. Thanks for your time. Always a pleasure. And folks, thanks for joining us live. Thanks also to the people who's going to watch the recording. And see you in 2 weeks for the next DevRel show. Have a good one, folks.